also have declared indefinite strike, and also federal government may borrow 11 trillion naira as the budget deficit has risen above 100%. You're welcome to Dailies International, and welcome to International, looking at the dailies and various news that are actually trending on our papers this morning. I'm Sarah Elisha Dasham, and Owolabi Tosin is here with me. Good morning, Tosin.
Morning, Sarah.
I think I'm so excited to have Nigerian now that I'm about to say that.
I think you'll be part of them.
Okay. Well, let's take a look at the paper, starting with the Daily Trust newspaper.
Okay, on the Daily Trust, we have crowd defies downpour as Atiku, Ayu, others receive shekero. And we know yesterday PDP, the aspirant and even the chairman, that's Ayu, Iocha Ayu, were at Kano State yesterday to receive shekero, and it was a massive crowd. We saw so many crowd and even people who decamped from different parties to the PDP. And on banditry, federal government releases 6.25 billion naira for cattle ranches in Katsina. And here, concerning the story, we have in a bid to relieve herdsmen of their losses due to banditry activities in Katsina State, the federal government has released a sum of 6.25 billion naira for the establishment of cattle ranches across local councils. The development was confirmed in a statement made available to newsmen on Monday, August 29th by Deputy Governor Manir Yakubu. The report that Yakubu made the disclosure during the ranch stakeholders development meeting in Katsina. He listed local government areas where the grazing reserve will be established as Jibia, Batsari, Dutsima, Safana, Dunsama, Kankara, Faskari, Sabua, and Danduma. Yakubu explained that part of the fund release will be used to construct schools, healthcare centers, and veterinary clinics in the village hosting the reserve. The deputy governor reiterated that both federal and state governments is committed to ensuring the peaceful living of cattle herders, assuring its determination to deal with cattle rustlers, kidnappers, and other criminalities in the state. We are soliciting for the support and cooperation of the affected communities to provide suitable sites for the execution of this project. This is coming from Yakubu. And concerning the story, concerning this release of 6.25 billion naira for the cattle ranches in Katsina. We know the reasons why they want to release this money for the cattle ranches because of insecurity. And I would say not just Katsina State is faced with insecurity. At this point, the whole country and the whole states are faced with this issue of insecurity. If we need to give this amount of money, then all states should receive this amount of money. This 6.25 billion naira. Because I would say, are we concerned about, are we supposed to face this issue of cattle ranches in Katsina State, or face the main issue at hand that we are going through? One, now ASU have declared that the strike is indefinite, and we know indefinite now, we don't have even a particular day where they will call the strike off. And it's still an issue of funds. We see where the police are still soliciting for their funds. They are demanding for their funds. It's not just soliciting, they are demanding for their fund, because if you work, you need to receive your pay. Just yesterday, we recorded in some states, including Plateau, where state workers are saying they've been going to work and they've not received their salaries, getting to the third month or even the fourth month when they've not received their salaries in those states. Aside the states we mentioned, there are other states where they've not received their salaries. Our healthcare workers, what is happening to them? Nothing. They are embarking on strike because they've not received their hazard allowance and even their payments for allowances from 2019. We see the aviation sector. It is crumbling gradually. Look at our road, the road sector. It is crumbling because our roads are nothing to write home about. We saw the heavy gridlock as a couple of the bad roads. We have heavy gridlock, and we have this flood now even affecting our road. No standard materials are used to construct road, and this flood is affecting the road. We see flood in different states, cutting away with properties. Even in Kano, we recorded issue of this flood yesterday. We see flood cutting away properties. It's cutting away properties, and even properties, and also money, because people invest on agricultural produce, and this flood is affecting it. And now the federal government is looking at giving Katsina State 6.25 billion naira for cattle ranches. Sele, if we need to grow, if we need to develop, there there are places we should put our money. Now, ASU have been meeting like on a daily basis. Yesterday they met to know the fate, and now indefinite strike. Give them the money they demand so that they can go back to school. Nothing. And now with the federal government saying they want to borrow for the budget, to enhance the budget. We are borrowing and we are giving money to Katsina State for ranches. So like, if you want to clear your path, use your own personal funds to clear your path. Don't use the federal government money to clear your path. I know Mr. President is from Katsina State, and at the end of it, he said after retirement, he's going to go back to Daura. He's going to go back to Katsina. Yes, use your fund to clear your path in your state. Don't use the federal government money to clear your path. Look at, this is money of taxpayers, and taxpayers demand they demand good outcome of their money. If you pay tax, then you should benefit from this tax you are paying. This tax that we are paying should not be just for a particular set of people. Everybody should feel the impact of the tax you are paying. Concerning this issue, I just wonder, when I saw this news this morning, I was like, why do we have to go around all this? Why do we have to do all this? Like, it looks like people don't have a say any longer. The federal government do only what pleases them. Have we gotten to that extent in our country? Something needs to be done. Something needs to be done, and I just hope that the right authorities will air their voice. The right authorities will do the right thing about this. The right authorities will stand up, and we need to say no to this. If you want to clear your path, use your money to clear your path. Don't use the money of taxpayers to clear your path. We have other pressing issues that we need to use money to put money into those places, not issue of cattle ranches. Insecurity is affecting everybody. Banditry is affecting everybody. Terrorism is affecting everybody. Then do it. And if we want to look at it, look at Zamfara State, where 69 hospitals were carted away by terrorists. They used those. They converted these hospitals to their own personal properties, to their housing. Mr. President did not look at that side. The federal government did not look at that side. They are looking at cattle ranches in Katsina. Of what benefit is cattle ranch to us?
Honestly,
we need to do something about this.
It's really, really sad, just like you're saying, there's no place or there's no state in Nigeria that has not been affected by insecurity, just like you rightly stated. And even if we say we want to look at the places that have been affected the most, you mentioned one, which we have Zamfara, we have Yobe, that till date, most of the secondary to primary schools have been shut down or have actually been destroyed as a result of insecurity. We have other, look at Kaduna, for instance, there has been a soft spot over the years, still looking at banditry and terrorism. And just like you said, if we are looking at for 2023 budget, our money is even short. And I still go back to what the chairman of APC said. He said we can keep borrowing for eternity, but we have to come to that realization that the more we borrow, we become slaves to that nation or to whoever we are borrowing money from. Let's not even look at the money that we are still losing from oil theft. We've been recording this on our papers, I think, over and over and over. There is no paper that will read that will not record oil theft. So just like you've said, if we are going to look at this thing critically, there are other things that we can actually use this money for. We've not recovered from the money or from the cars that were being bought for Niger Republic. We're still looking at it. Just yesterday, Sarah wrote on the paper that the Abacha loot that has, that came in from US, we want publicly, they should tell us what, how much came into the country, what will be done. We need paperwork, and at the end of the day, it should be audited so I will know that really this amount of money that was actually disbursed for this particular thing was done. So just like you're saying, we're going to look at this 6.25 billion naira just for cattle. Then we have to look at other sectors too that are crumbling. What are we planning to do to make sure that we rescue that? This is not just about the present administration, but then we have to look at the generation to come after. What are we planning to do for prosperity to come and say that yes, during my administration this is what I did? So I believe that whatever the idea is or whatever the government actually felt by actually looking at giving this money to Katsina, it should be for a very good reason. And at the end of the day, I hope that other states also will be considered to see that what can be done for them so that we can actually see how we can curb insecurity there too.
Thank you very much, sir. Let's see on the Daily Trust. Traders count losses as flood sacks Kano Canteen Quarry Market. And here the big story says no more negotiations with federal government. This is from ASU. Declares indefinite strike, and NANS is saying they are heartless, and lecturers resigning in droves at Unilag. Their decisions not binding on state facilities. This is coming from the pro-chancellors. Federal government may borrow 11 trillion naira for 2023 budget as deficit rises above 100%. And on Hush Puppy, court bars federal government from extraditing Kyari to US. And on 2023, politicians see elections as war. This is coming from INEC. And woman lost kids with biscuit, steals 2-year-old in Niger. And details can be found in page 16. And concerning people that are still in captivity, aside those for the Kaduna-Abuja train attack, we still have 11 schoolgirls of the Federal Government College, Birnin Yauri, and also one student of Bethel Baptist High School, Kujama. Of the 11 schoolgirls for the FGC, Birnin Yauri, and also the one student of the Bethel Baptist High School. That's all on the Daily Trust.
Thank you, Tosi. Let's take a look at the Vanguard newspaper. Why I defected to PDP. This is coming from Shekaro, and you can read detail of that on page 13. And on Delta Guber, appeal court restate Aburiwari as PDP candidate. You can read more of that too on page 12. And we have conduct census devoid of politics, ethnicity, religion, Clark tells the MPC chairman. Shippers Council seek powers to sanction airy industry operators. Still on the Vanguard newspaper, 2023 budget, federal government pegs deficit between 11.30 trillion naira to 12.41 trillion naira. You can read more of that too on page 7. Court stops Buhari and NBC from shutting down 53 broadcast stations. And on Hush Puppy, why court refuses federal government request to extradite Abba Kyari to US for trial. You can read more of that too on page 7. Whereabouts of 14,000 children in Nigeria unknown, says the ICRC, and I hope more will be done to intensify the whereabouts of these 14,000 children. Pregnant woman dies. 3 vehicles with passengers swept away by flooding in Borno. Now you see it's not just in Kano but also in Borno. So more needs to be done. Just like you said, we need to learn how to build our houses. Let it not be by the waterside. I think it has been on our papers. Is it the last 2 weeks or last 3 weeks where we had NetMeet saying that, warning various states that flooding is going to be around. So we have to be careful because we know that it's August. We're almost getting to the member mode, and though we know the way the rains are around July, August. So I just hope that more will be done, especially it's not just about this year but even the years ahead. We have to look for a way to take care of our drainages, stop building by the waterways and lots of things. And I think enlightenment has to be done down to the the grassroots level, so that it will not just be at the urban area but also at the grassroots level, so that we'll be able to stop this issue of flooding. The big story on the Vanguard newspaper, Obasanjo's presence at Wike's Obi's London talks rattles Tinubu's calm. The writer following that story, Obi Dati Media Office tackles Alake. Says no basis to compare Obi with Tinubu. I will name my preferred presidential candidate soon. This is coming from the Rivers governor. Says I know who can rescue Nigeria. As Tinubu meets Obasanjo, Amechi, and others tomorrow. Okay, Ozibanjo, Amechi, and others tomorrow. Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed. The issue happening in APC and also PDP. And we can see the picture story here where Shakaru is back in PDP with Atiku and also Ayu, the chairman, raising his hand to welcome him back. Ngige writes Adamu on the status of the ASU and federal government negotiation as union extend the strike indefinitely, with detail found on page 9. And that's all on the Vanguard newspaper.
And on the blueprint, we have on license revocation. Court stops Buhari NBC from shutting down AIT, Silverbird, and 51 others. Fixes hearing for September 8. The Federal High Court sitting in Lagos on Monday stopped President Muhammadu Buhari and the National Broadcasting Commission from revoking the license of 53 broadcast stations in the country. And we see that they're still more working towards stopping the revocation of the license of this license broadcast station, and we just hope that something will be done, because we know that the the Guild of Editors also raised their voice. SERAP also raised their voice concerning this, because we know the NBC is saying, because this broadcast station aired that video on the documentary on insecurity, and now their license want to be revoked. And we saw where SERAP said no to that, and even the Guild of Editors also said no to this. And we just hope that they stand by it, and the license of these people, of these broadcast stations, will not be collected from them. Because as a media station, you need to tell the audience the fact. There are people who rely on the information they get from you. They rely on what the content they get from you. So why do you expect people to tell lies to their larger audience and the larger populace outside there? So we need to tell people what is happening on this issue of insecurity. It's just for people to take heed and know where they tread upon, and even know where they go to, and how they need to be conscious of the happenings around them. Not just this issue of terrorism or insecurity and everything around. People need to know what is happening. So why do you expect people to sieve out the facts out of the news and or content they give out to people out there? So we just hope that, just as the Guild of Editors and even SERAP have said no to the NBC, we just hope they stand by it. And now we see that the court also they say that the court is fixing their next hearing for September 8th, and we just keep our fingers crossed to know the outcome of the hearing in the courts. We have on 2023 budget, federal government to finance expenditure with 11.30 trillion naira loan, proposes 19.76 trillion naira estimate, and project 12.4 trillion deficit, up from 7.35 trillion naira in 2022. To generate 206.1 billion naira from privatization proceeds. And the whole story can be found in page 6. Shekaro, an indispensable bridge builder. This is coming from Atiku. And 2023, INEC inaugurates election crisis communication team. Says we are recruiting training staff for 176,846 polling units in 8,809 wards. ASU extends strike, state varsities tackle union over funding approach. And Oshibanjo, Amechi, Apabio, 19 others to meet Tinubu on Wednesday. Nigerian digital banking startup Grey rises by $2 million in seed round. And 2 confirmed dead in Kogi mining site tragedy. NCOS confirms death of inmate in Kuje prison, and court voids federal government request for Kyari's extradition to the United States. That's all on the Blueprint newspaper.
On this day newspaper, federal government proposes 19.76 trillion naira budget for 2023. Budget deficit may rise to 12.41 trillion naira. The writer following that story insists fuel subsidy ends June next year, assures it will not default on debt service, and lawmakers accuse Accountant General of inadequacy in the MDA's revenue records. You can read more of that on page 10. And INEC is saying politicians see election as war, and detail can be found on 28. And no wonder the way things are going on now, because of the way politicians see the do or die thing, and that's why we're actually suffering what we're suffering now. So we hope that they will all come to their senses to realize that it's not all about whether I'm there or not, but what can I do to contribute to nation building. We saw where Peter Obi said, regardless of who wins or emerge as a winner, he's going to give his own support. And I believe we should all come from that direction, regardless of what your party is. We are all going to be in Nigeria together. So we have to realize that it's not all about me, but it's all about the interests of Nigerians as a whole. Now we're looking at various articles saying that even if we're going to actually have, it's going to look at privatization of the NNPC Limited, where we can actually, and I remember what you said about privatization. What has happened to NEPA when we privatize all this, and we can see the way things are happening right now. So regardless of what it is, politicians have to, maybe go back. And I always make mention of the national anthem, where we keep saying the national anthem, but we are yet to realize the wordings of what we are saying. If we really realize the wordings of this thing, then we will not behave the way or the manner we are behaving presently as politicians, or regardless of head or whatever responsibility is being settled to us at the end of the day. So I hope that our politicians will actually realize that it's not a war, not a do or die thing, whether you're there or not. Whoever emerges, you should give your quota for the nation building.
Yes.
Still on this day newspaper, State Varsity Pro-Chancellors descend on ASU over ASUDI case. Comment detail can be found on page 8. An article is saying, I will ensure NNPCL is fully privatized, run on NLNG model. Says National Oil Firm is corruption ridden. Insists Nigeria should not be handed over to inexperienced hands and promised to restore Nigeria's leadership role in Africa. You can read more of what article said on page 10 of this day newspaper. The big story says, PDP not built on any individual, no person can destabilize it. 2023 poll a referendum on APC, says article. Both he has been tried, tested, received Shekoro into the party. And Wiki says something will happen in PDP soon. So if you want to know what that is, you can actually grab this day newspaper and get more of that. An ex-Kano governor writes INEC on new status to withdraw Senate tickets. Picture story here, we can see welcome back to PDP. So you can grab this day newspaper and read any of the story that is of interest to you.
On the leadership newspaper, courts reject federal government's request to extradite Kyari to the United States. And groom, 6 wedding guests dies, bride, 8 others hospitalized in Enugu. Federal government piles more debt on next president with 11 trillion naira borrowings from 2023. Shekarau hobnobs with APC, NNPP, PDP in 3 months. After 199 days of industrial action, ASU loses ground as more state varsities pull out of strike. Pro-chancellors want union democratized by lecturers extend strike indefinitely, says union request for funding varsities outdated. Slams also decay for calling state varsities quacks. We've met over 80% of lecturers' demand. This is coming from the federal government, and they have lost Nigerians' sympathy. Court restrained President Muhammadu Buhari NBC from shutting down 53 broadcast stations. And Dangote to save forex through 40% sugar import substitution. Ohaneze to pick consensus presidential candidate from the southeast. And that's all on the leadership newspaper.
On Ajezra, Nigerian hush puppy court dismisses federal government suit to extricate Abba Kyari. You can read more of that on page 5 of Ajezra newspaper. And on NEC meeting, ASU adamant strike now indefinite as 4 state varsities set to resume. And pro-chancellors seek democratization of ASU membership. You can read more of that on page 8 too. Foreign mission spending fund illegal. This is coming from the Auditor General. And Bajabi Amida present the CEO SAP agenda at the Commonwealth Parliamentary Conference in Canada. You can read up that on page 12. And Zulum emerges 2022 Best Governor of the Year. You can read more of that too on page 2. Diaspora remittance rise to $5.16 billion in the first quarter. And this is coming from CBN. And we have Cardinal Opelike appointment, huge lesson. You can read more of that. This is coming from Ohaneze. Shakaru dumps NNPP senatorial ticket and returns to PDP. Federal government to spend 19.76 trillion naira in 2023, says the finance minister. You can read up more about the spending on page 13 of our Jezreel newspaper. We have a picture story here too. Do well to grab the Jezreel newspaper and read any of the story that's of interest to you.
And on the Nation, World Bank exclude Nigeria from $350 million food security cash. And court declines government's request to extradite Abba Kyari to the United States. Tinubu is saying, I am here for higher calling and gas-powered buses for use on Marina Aja Epe routes. Ifa, not Oyomesi, will pick new Alafin. Shekaro returns to PDP. ASU declares total indefinite strike as state varsities not under obligations to implement federal government agreement with the union. For PDP crisis, setback for Atiku and Wike reconciliation as Atiku men rally party organs for chairman Ayu. Something will happen soon, says the Rivers State governor. Votes for capital project unlikely in budget 2023, says the finance minister, as federal government plans 19.76 trillion naira budget with 12.41 trillion naira deficit. Buhari signed civil aviation, 6 other bills into law, and IG is saying no to assault on policemen. That's all on the nation.
On New Telegraph newspaper, the first half of 2022, Financial Institute boosts economic with 1.35 trillion naira. Insurance sector records minimal inputs. You can read more of that on the front page and also page 4 of the New Telegraph newspaper. Oil price sustained rise on OPEC plus oil's cut prospect. You can read more of that too on page 25. IGP warns against assaulting police officers, orders persecution of corporates. I think there was a video that was flying around where we saw a police officer together with civilians, actually in a, physical combat.
Yeah.
And it's really a very sad one where we see our security agency, going in that direction, even though we do not know what actually triggered that anger. But I think an anger management needs to be, actually part of the training for the police academy, because you need to teach them, because they relate more with civilians, and their training should also, reflect that, I believe, because let it not be that at any little provocation you begin to see a security agency doing issues like that. And also civilians also need to learn to respect authorities, because whenever any order is being given to you, you should learn to obey it at the end of the day. Still on New Telegraph newspaper, alleged fraud, court dismisses applications seeking to extricate Kyari to US for trial. You can read more of that on page 4. Court stops Buhari NBC from shutting down 53 broadcast stations. The big story here say, keep calm, something will happen in PDP. This is coming from Wike. Says he will reveal identities of presidential candidates plotting to loot out Nigeria. And we have another rider, appeal court reverses Aborivore sacking as Delta PDP Guba candidate. You can read more of that on page 3 and 4. We do not know what Wike have on his sleeves, but I hope he reveals that soon so that Nigerians will begin to know what is really happening. You don't keep all this information with you. I remember the same thing happens to me last year of Blessed Glory, where he kept saying he know the people that are actually, bringing issues in Nigeria, and he didn't say anything, and he has actually gone to his grave with the words in his mouth. So I believe that whatever you have that will help build Nigeria, you should open it up so that Nigerians can be aware of what is actually happening. Even if you die, you die with your integrity intact, knowing the fact that you spoke at the end of the day. Still on New Telegraph newspaper, 2023 federal government proposes 19.76 trillion naira budget. You can read more of that on page 5. Still on 2023, I'm answering a higher calling. This is coming from Tinubu. Downside of the paper, federal government fires back as ASU extends strike indefinitely. Says it has met 80% of lecturers' demands. State varsities can't be forced to implement federal government pact with ASU. This is coming from pro-chancellors, and PANDEF condemns extension. On 2023, we are facing security geographical challenges. This is coming from INEC. They mentioned the likes of poverty, illiteracy, unemployment, fueling insecurity in the Northwest. And I hope something will be done about educating them. I think we've mentioned this over and over again. Even if INEC can be everywhere to actually educate electorates on what is expected of them. We have chairmen, we have and chancellors. We have various stakeholders at various levels that can actually educate, and that's why we even have the media that also facilitate to make sure that people are actually educated on that. So just like we've mentioned, the likes of power vote buying, where because of illiteracy and hunger people can do anything. I just hope that more education will be done so that people will really know what is happening. With what is happening around, I mean, you don't need anybody else to tell you that you need to vote out bad governance and actually vote in good government at the end of the day.
Yes, Selena, I'll say it's a good thing because INEC have involved the media engagement now for the larger populace to know what is happening and how they can take it, because just like the story we read where they said the politicians have seen election as a war zone, as war. Now they've taken it as war. But I'll say, who are the people that are at the war front? It is you and I that they sent to the war front just to be at loggerheads. We saw the picture where they were met in London and they were all holding hands, smiling. When people hear the Nigerians are the ones saying no, fighting one another, and at the end of the day, you are the ones that they will send to the polling booths to snatch polling boxes, ballot boxes. You are the one they will send to the polling units to serve as thugs, and at the end of the day, you might be shot, and your parent they won't even remember to even go to your parents to do anything. Or we've had stories where people are being shot even at the front, the point of taking ballot boxes, and even snatching ballot papers, and nothing is done to those families. Nothing is even done to the families of the bereaved. So we just say that we need to be aware of all these things that are happening, because at the end of the day, even if they take this issue of election as war, they'll still have a way of reconciling their differences. They still have a way of compensating themselves. Then they leave the larger populace, they leave the ignorant ones out there to be the ones at war with one another. So we need to be conscious, we need to know what is happening and take this issue very serious. Come out on the day of election, vote in the right government, and also ensure that your vote is being counted, and don't allow your conscience to be bought by those people. We saw at the primaries where people were given little amount of money just for them to sell their conscience. We saw some delegates who sold their conscience just for this. So I'll just say our conscience should not be sold. It should not be bought by these people, because we know what is happening. I'll say everybody is affected by this economy. Everybody has felt the impact of this economy one way or the other. So we need to do the right thing come 2023 and even the various governorship elections in different states. So people should be aware of what is happening and don't allow their conscience to be bought. Rather, they should come out and vote the right person that they know will put hands together with the audience, put hands together with the public and citizens to move this country to a greater height.
Thank you so much, Tosin. I think right at this moment we're ripe for a break. So remember, you can be part of the conversation by dropping your comment on our Facebook page. And also, there have been lots of stories looking at what the federal government is implying to do for the 2023 budget, borrowing. Possibly, they want to borrow about 11 point something billion naira to actually look at our budget deficit, and also the fact that first subsidy is going to stop by June next year. What did you feel about that? And also the indefinite strike that have actually been declared by ASU. If you're a student, we'd like you to call. If you're a parent, we'd like to know what is the problem and what do you think can be the solution to this. Do not go anywhere. We'll be right after this break. Thank you for staying tuned. It's still the Dailies on Equa Television International. We've been looking at various stories. The almost 12 trillion naira the federal government is planning to actually borrow, and also indefinite strike that has been declared by ASU, and lots of issues that have actually been flying on our paper. So we'll really like to hear from you. What are your feels? What are your concerns, and also what did you feel can be done about all this? We are live also on Facebook and YouTube. Please do well to drop your comment. We'll read it real time here, and also our phone lines are displayed on your screen, so you can call us and let us know what you feel about the stories. Thank you so much, Tosi.
Thank you, Sally. I'll take the Punch newspaper. 6 of 10 doctors leaving Nigeria. The Association of Resident Doctors lament. Thank you.
Well, Tosi, we already have a call. Hello, Stephen.
Good morning, and how are you today? As regards
okay, go on, Steve. We can hear you.
We don't have government again. Our government should take it and change the situation of Nigeria. On the other hand, Abacha's loot, let that money go around the whole state, even if not to set all the outstanding salary, and it should be monitored accordingly. Then police are still talking of crime. They should remove police from PECOM and remove the whole federal government from PECOM. It's stealing people's money directly and indirectly. Please and please, because he bribed the secretary to federal government 500 million. Then he went ahead. Aisha, in charge of the director of PECOM, went and bribed Radio Berekete 50 million. 50 million. That one now bring it out that he can take such money on top of what people said, that he should go away with our money. Since that time now, he and that man are not in good terms. So all these things that are happening in Nigeria can bring a war one day. So let us look where and correct the federal government. And if they don't want to rule again, they should step down. So thank you and God bless you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stephen. And on the Punch, you have 6 of 10 doctors leaving Nigeria. This is from resident doctors as they lament. And we know where the federal government is placing importance and even priority, because of what use will you walk as an elephant and eat as ants. People are tired, Sele, and now we see where doctors are just looking out for ways they can leave the shore of this country. Not just doctors, everybody is looking out for ways he or she can leave the shore of this country, because it is not favorable any longer.
Sorry, Tosi, we have Joshua. Hello, Joshua from
on the radio, on the telly now.
Sorry. Go on, Joshua, we can hear you.
My dad wants to talk to you. Hello, good morning.
Morning, sir. Good morning.
Hello.
Good morning. Yes, morning, sir.
Good. Hello, good morning. Yes. Okay, I'm speaking from Edo State.
Okay, sir, we can hear you. Please go on.
Yes, I do enjoy your program. Thank you very much. Yes, I do enjoy your program.
Sir, you're listening.
What I want to say is this: the way our leaders, the people in the government, the way they are leading us, we are not happy with it. Our leaders, the people in the government, the way they are leading us, we are not happy. Please, the money they are saying the people looted, let us share the money round. I don't believe the one they are saying let them put it in front. Share it. Let us share the money round. If it is start, let us share the money round.
All right, thank you so much, sir, for that contribution. I think that's concerning the Abacha loot. I think that is of everybody's concern since last week, that money should be shared equally. But then if you're giving that money fiscally to say, I believe you consume it and not know what you've used it. But if that money is used for something tangible that even generations after you will remember it, I think that will go a long way.
So like if we use the money for cattle ranches, then it should go around. Let people know that they have had impact in that money. It's not nobody's business what they will use the money for. If we will use this money and we'll put it in.
Sorry to say, I have to cut you short. Hello, Godwin from Kaduna. Good morning. Please be audible and move away from your TV set.
Good morning. This is Godwin.
Morning, Godwin. Go on. We can hear you.
Yes, I believe that the federal government believes so much in paying attention to animals than human beings. Like giving a full sum of 6 point something billion to support cattle ranching in Katsina. Why the students are at home for over 6 months now? And I believe that our government, our president, do not value education. That is why they are paying more attention to cattle, to the cows. Sincerely, Nigeria is a faith state already. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Tosi, you were saying something?
Yes, Ale, I'll say, since we're not saying, we spoke about using this money for infrastructure, using this money for development, and we're not seeing it that the government want to take this money and look out for ways they can settle the ongoing issue within the federal government and ASU, or settle the ongoing issue with the doctors, or settle the issue with the police. Rather, you want to use it for cattle ranches, then give everybody this money. Whatever anybody use this money for is none of your business, because they're not using it for the right thing. Nobody is going to feel impact, because I wonder why we want to use it for cattle ranch.
Sorry, I have to cut you short again. Hello, Ibrahim. Please move away from your TV set and be audible.
Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Hello.
We can hear you, Mr. Ibrahim. Go on, please.
Hello, good morning.
Morning.
Hello, good morning.
Hello, Mr. Ibrahim. Are you
This
there?
is Ibrahim from Night.
Okay. Go on, please.
I think he's listening to himself, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I will hope he calls us back.
Yes,
again.
I hope. And also, when he called, they should move away from their TV sets. We still have on the Punch newspaper, Wike vows to name candidates planning looting, and work for Atiku's victory. Shekaro urges supporters. Court stops Kerry's U.S. extradition. Federal government reveals judgment. The big story on 19.76 trillion naira budget proposal. 12 trillion naira deficit worries the federal government as debt may hit 54 trillion naira. Revenue shortfalls to hamper capital project funding. Federal government says insecurity threatens FDIs. Nigerian economy shrinks by 63 billion naira, 28 sectors struggles, and this is still what we talk about when we talk about sectors that are struggling, and now we see 28 sectors are struggling and Nigeria economy is shrinking. What importance and what benefit is all those places we are putting money into? Because we saw where the African Development Bank chairman told the country that it is not bad to borrow. Other countries borrow, but when you borrow, use this money, invest this money in places that will yield profit. Well, I would like to ask those questions. All those places we are putting money, are they going to yield profit to us?
We have Chubuzo. Hello, Chubuzo. Good morning.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Chubuzo. We can hear you. Go on, please.
Hello.
Good morning. Please go on.
Yeah, good morning. I thank you for your good work. I want to know one thing there, please. Okay, my name is Luka.
Okay.
I want to know how many of the cattle is for the federal government. Of those cattle they are creating the ranch, how many of those cattle is owned by federal government? It's a question. Okay. Some time ago, they said they are going to leave that seed better than they make it. Are they working towards that? God bless Nigeria.
Thank you.
Amen. God bless Nigeria.
Yeah, that question.
The people they are reading by their wounds. The people they are reading have no sense. God will raise up a role in this nation. But
Thank you very much, Mr. Chibuzo. Now, the writer following the big story on the Punch says airlines cut workforce over aviation crisis. Family groans as kerosene prices rises by 99%. It is all glaring in the faces of Nigerians. We need to invest in the right places that will yield more interest for us to move as a nation. Explosion near RCCG camp injures 2 and raises trucks. Police plan fresh screening for protesting constables, and man arrested for stealing 15-year-old child in Lagos.
Hello, Gochuku. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
It's been a while, Mr. Ogochukwu.
I traveled, and that is why I've not been calling you.
Okay, welcome back.
Anyway, I'm back. Hope the work is doing up well. Right. I have seen some of the newspapers and headlines, and I want to comment on some of the topics trending. One of them is the extension of ASO strike. I've always been one of the persons that advocates that Nigerian government does not have any program for Nigerian students. If they do, or if you have been seeing their children in Nigerian universities, none of them have their children in one of these universities. You see, that's the beginning point, and that is one of the reasons why they are not very, very, sympathetic with what is going on in the educational sector. And if they don't have their children in the universities, they will not take any good steps to make sure they make things work well. And it is very, very unfortunate that we are at the electoral age, that soon one of us will be going to the polls. I wonder why some youth, some students still campaign for the same people who have kept them at home for 6 months and they are not even having hope of going back anytime soon. But whichever way they want it, I think some of us we are finished. The idea now is not just to finish school or to sit at home, because there is no work out there. Even if we start up little something, they will subdue you with a lot of charges, tax and some other things coming up. I equally want to talk about this issue of ranching, giving out a humongous amount of money for ranching in Katsina State. I know very much that the money they have budgeted for ranching is not for federal government business. It is for personal business. And that is so divisive. When you have a federal government supported another region with such amount of money for their own businesses, if they can come up to support a particular section of the country with such amount of money, that means they are promoting insecurity in other regions, because they will start up a protesting or doing one or two things to attract federal government funding again. You see why we say that the Mr. President is taking so much divisionary policy in his government, and that should be stopped. Imagine how many months now we have had that snakes swallowed so much amount of money, that the office got burnt and so much amount of money got lost. Nothing is happening. Even this one now that just happened now. Even when they gave out money for security vehicle in nearby countries, we all shouted and it has ended. Even this one, we will still shout and it will end. And that's Nigeria for you. That's Nigerians for you. We always shout and it just ends. I pray that government that is coming from 2023 will come and dig out some of this mess that some of these governments have brought to this our country. A country of intellectuals, belittled to nothing because of mediocrity and ethnicity. May God help us. Come 2023, let's get a good leader. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
Thank you, Kochiko, for that elaborate, looking at issues like that. So is that all on the Punch?
Yes, that's all on the Punch newspaper.
Okay, I think we have a comment on Facebook. I would like to round up with that comment. This is coming from 90 Cent, and he said the only thing that will stop borrowing in the country is the whole state should stop relying too much on the federal government. Thank you so much for that, and I think he has begun to give us solutions on what we can do apart from looking at how we can invest on other of our sectors that are dying. We can also look for internally as various states, what can you do, what strength do you have in your own state. I think that will go a long way to really help us.
And how many governors are ready to do that?
Of course, Tosi. Thank you so much for doing this with me.
Thank you, Sandra.
Thank you to all our callers, and also thank you, Sent, for your comment on our Facebook page. Until we come your way again, to have a lovely day ahead.